It seems that you've accidentally wandered into a security breach video essay. Due to the sensitive and borderline unplayable nature of the video game you may be exposed to here, you will not be allowed to leave until the video concludes at the 14-minute mark, so hang tight. Thank you for subjecting yourself to this colossal failure from a gameplay, lore, and technical perspective. We hope your experience has not been as regrettable as ours. But is the game at least okay? Oh god, surely the whole game won't be like this, what the f***? This game runs so badly that these are the settings that I have to play at to get decent FPS. I don't know how the devs decided this was okay to release. You know what, that's just typical. The hell is that? Okay, why the f***? Holy hell, there's a white lady.
What the hell is even that?
When did SteelWool decide they knew how to make humans? This is unironically the scariest part of the game. This might be a hard pill to swallow for fans of Security Breach and the FNAF community as a whole. Of course, it's no secret that this game has had a bit of a reputation, and I'm obviously not the first one to point this out or joke about it. For a while, even I was kind of clinging on to hope that maybe SteelWool could build something out of the ashes of Security Breach, or better yet, just retcon the whole thing, to be honest. It seems like Security Breach is destined to forever be looked upon negatively, the Rocky 5 or Hot Space equivalent of a FNAF sequel. It's no doubt that Rocky 5 and Hot Space are enjoyed by some, but they're largely seen as the black sheep of their respective fan bases. This metaphor would probably fly right over the heads of most Security Breach fans, because most of them are between the ages of, I'm gonna guess, 4 and 7, and that's one of the most important issues with the game. And I'll explain in a minute why this is an issue when it comes to the Ruin DLC. But Security Breach is a kid's game. Like, that's not even debatable. This game is for children. If anything, it's a kid's game masquerading as a more mature game. In fact, it's been discovered that there's a fair amount of cut content that wouldn't be okay for child audiences, so SteelWool decided to water it down to make it more kid-friendly. Maybe it's not enough proof for you, so to prove this, let's look at 2 different opening scenes and the way that a good FNAF game presents itself, and the first impression the game gives you.
There's no doubting what you've achieved on a technical level. These are clearly state-of-the-art. There are just certain design choices that were made for these robots that we don't fully understand. We were hoping that you could shed some light on those.
She can dance. She can sing. She's equipped with a built-in helium tank for inflating balloons right at her fingertips. She can take song requests. She can even dispense ice cream.
With all due respect, those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton.
There's so many little things to talk about in that cutscene, and it sets the tone beautifully for Sister Location, and the main menu music absolutely slaps. I love the electronic sort of sound, and the harsh synths works amazingly alongside the sort of futuristic aesthetic of the game. Easily S tier when it comes to FNAF main menu music. Now, let's look at a different opening cutscene. Now, it might be difficult to notice at a glance, but see if you can spot the tonal difference this intro is going for. Just look closely.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Fazbear Entertainment would like you to put your hands together for the one, the only, Freddy Fazbear.
What the f*** is this? Is this what anyone thinks FNAF looks like? I know the developers were going for a much different tone here, but this absolutely kills any chance that the game might have a creepy atmosphere. In fact, I'd argue that's actually what Security Breach does worst, atmosphere. Bit of a side tangent, but just to prove this is specifically Security Breach's issue, let's look at the FNAF 1 trailer. Now, in this trailer, we can see the FNAF 1 characters moving around and they're performing, it's daytime, but these f***ers are still scary. Seeing them during the day doesn't eliminate any of that scare factor. Security Breach opens with a colorful, well-animated, aesthetically pleasing scene, and follows it up by attempting to juxtapose it with the rest of the game. Now, on paper, this isn't a bad idea, because it's worked in the past. The best example I can think of being Pizzeria Simulator. Now, this approach might not have been so bad if they had successfully executed the second part. But this game is not scary. The intro doesn't juxtapose anything, it's just more of the same bright, shiny, and colorfulness all throughout. The deterioration of the animatronics is not enough to make these guys scary. This is what children think a horror game looks like. Of course, it couldn't actually be scary or have any of the dark undertones or story of the original games, because giving the players nightmares isn't how you sell plushies. I'm pissed right now. This actually looks like a good time, I want to be here. You might be wondering how this relates to the Ruin DLC, and I can sense the obvious counter-argument, and I have to partially agree. It looks like the devs saw some of the issues and are using this DLC as a vessel to try to correct them. And admittedly, yes, the environments are more akin to classic FNAF. Yes, the animatronics do look scarier than their previous incarnations, but that's not really saying much, is it? The reason that the DLC, by the way, this isn't even the biggest issue with the game, we'll get to that later, but my fear is even with this new coat of rust the devs have given the animatronics and the environment, it'll still be limited by the ultimate overarching desire to market this game to children. The same issue with the base game will extend to any media surrounding it. I'm not pulling this out of my ass. Have you read any of the tales from the Pizzaplex books? They are watered down childish garbage. Here's what I'll do. Let's watch the trailer for the Ruin DLC, and I'll try to go into it neutrally. I'll pause it and point out some things I like and dislike.
Cassie, I hope you get this message. I'm trapped here at the Pizzaplex, or what's left of it.
So right off the bat, I'll say I do like the visual direction for this DLC. I like seeing the Pizzaplex all run down and destroyed. I think it'll be easier to appreciate when we see the side-by-side comparisons of the various locations. It very much gives Portal 2 vibes. I'll applaud the devs here. I think this is certainly a step in the right direction.
Don't have time to go into how I got here, but you've got to help me out.
And here is one of my issues with it. Gregory. I do not like this piece of shit. I think Gregory is annoying. I think he's an annoying character. I do not like his writing.
Freddy, I found the free gift.
It's a crappy Mr. Hippo fridge magnet? Lame.
No child from this planet actually talks like this. And the voice acting. Ugh, there's some talented people involved with this game. By the way, I just want to say real quick, I don't think the flaws of Security Breach are from a lack of talent at SteelWool. I don't want you to get the wrong idea there, but Gregory's voice consistently rubs me the wrong way. With every word he says, it's abundantly obvious this is an adult woman voicing this, like, 8-year-old boy. I know women often do the voices for young boys, and a lot of them pull it off. I don't think that's the case here. No shade to the voice actor, I think she's still talented. It's just this performance isn't very strong, and there are some strong vocal performances in this game, so it really does contrast. Let's keep watching.
It's so dark down here.
Okay, I'll tell you what, these animatronics do look scarier. As I said, that's not saying much, but at the very least, it's something. But it does kind of feel like these new designs suffer from what I like to call the withered Bonnie effect. It kind of feels like the devs are trying too hard with them, and as a result, they feel like they could be a tad scarier. This could also be referred to as the nightmare animatronic effect. As they mangle them up and, try to make them look scarier, it sort of becomes hard to suspend my disbelief and has the opposite effect. I still like them more than their old incarnations, but it feels like there's just some missed potential. This is also largely subjective. I'm sure there's a fair amount of people who would see this and shit themselves. I'm just not one of those people, but if you are, that's perfectly fine. For all I know, I might be in the minority here. I guess I'll find out when I see the like-dislike ratio of this video. Anyways, let's keep watching. I have mixed feelings on this. In the base game, you do have the option to use the cameras, but during my playthrough, I found it was sort of a chore to do so. It was only really useful for when you're hiding and you want to see if an animatronic is outside your hiding spot. I think if the devs do something interesting with this mechanic, it could be cool, but just looking at this, I don't have too much hope for it being all that useful of a mechanic. Maybe they should take some inspiration from the Joy of Creation, the Halloween edition. You can lure Springtrap to different parts of the building using the cameras. And the Pizzaplex is massive compared to the FNAF 3 location, so I think it could actually have more potential. This is another minor nitpick, but this character we're playing as is a child. I can only suspend my disbelief so much. We see them going around, they're interacting with this complex machinery, like they're not smart enough to do that. In fact, why do we even have to play as a child in this DLC? I think there's probably a few problems that could be eliminated if we play as an adult. Someone who's like 5'10", probably could square up with these robots, lay them out.
Gregory, run!
Now, we don't hear much from this character, but this is some voice acting I can get behind. This actually sounds like a little girl. I applaud this. It almost makes me wish we'd follow this character instead of Gregory in the base game. This is a minor nitpick, but this Moondrop character is not scary, no matter what you do to him, and his voice acting once again reinforces the idea that this is a kid's game. In fact, if I wasn't so far into writing the script, I probably would have written the whole section on this childish voice acting. In fact, side note, but everything you've heard me say since this timestamp was written in like 10 minutes. Caffeine is a hell of a thing. I actually wrote that part too. I really want you to be impressed with me. Anyway, let's get back to the trailer.
Don't give up on me yet.
Somehow what SteelWool said to the fanbase after the release of Security Breach made it into the trailer. That's crazy. The DLC comes out in July, and I'm writing this part of the script on June 26th, so it's gonna be a real rush to get this video in time, so wish me luck. So I'll tell you what, I do think this trailer makes the DLC look like a step up. Of course, it also helps that this time they presumably won't be releasing it half-baked, so it won't suffer from a lot of the glitches and whatnot. But considering how much Security Breach brought down the average for a FNAF game, I can't say that I'm too impressed with what I'm seeing. I'm certainly not blown away by this trailer, not even close. The highest praise I can give it is that it looks like it will improve Security Breach as a whole and right some of the wrongs, but ultimately it's like SteelWool is trying to put a band-aid on a Civil War artillery wound. It's really just not gonna work. It's decent, but not good. It's not great. It's okay. Hell, if this is what Security Breach was, I might give it a solid C, maybe even a low B tier ranking, but that doesn't change the fact that it's still nearly bottom of the barrel FNAF experience. Now that I'm done with that, let me get into my biggest issue with Security Breach. I think this is everyone's biggest issue, to be honest. I think the FNAF story started to become very convoluted around sister location, and by the time Ultimate Custom Night and Help Wanted rolled around, everyone was kind of thinking this story has to end at some point, right? Specifically, Help Wanted was the first game in the series where I thought this should have definitely ended by now. I also didn't really like the direction that Help Wanted took this story. This is by no means an original point, but if they could just let William Afton go, if they could just let him bow out of the lore, that would have been so great. I gotta say, I was never a huge fan of the torch being passed to Vanny, or Vanessa. She's not really a compelling character in my opinion. I think in general she's a much less popular character. I think Security Breach really fudges any possibility that she might be taken seriously in the future. I mean, she's goofy as hell, just look at her. I think SteelWool knew this. I mean, you can't really make a new character this late in the story and have it live up to William Afton, so knowing this information, what do you think SteelWool should have done? The correct answer is any of these choices, but they didn't do any of these things. They just resurrected William Afton. Are you fucking kidding me? For those who don't know, FNAF 6, or Pizzeria Simulator, had all of the remaining possessed animatronics, including William Afton, burn in a fire. It was climactic, it was dramatic, and epic. It was perfect. This was genuinely the best ending that such a convoluted story could have gone out on. It tied up all loose ends and ended the Afton storyline in a very satisfying and appropriate way. This cutscene is just something else. But nope, turns out William Afton is fine. He died and went to hell, but he's also here. And it turns out that under the Pizzaplex, every single animatronic in the history of the franchise is possessing this blob. And this blob is mad at William Afton, and they fight, and it's an unnecessary continuation of what, quite frankly, was already a complete clusterfuck. Did I mention that Glamrock Freddy and Gregory are supposed to be parallels of Michael and Evan Afton? Didn't they already get their ending? The story's only still going because it's on life support. Just pull the plug, please. Just end its suffering, let it die. It's lived long enough. It's only cruel to prolong its miserable existence. If the Ruben DLC plays any part in keeping this artificially living story still going, I'm just gonna be done. Forget Helm 1 and 2. Forget the movie, I'm just gonna have a stroke, to be honest with you. I genuinely feel like the only actual solution would be to retcon the entirety of Security Breach, call it an accident, and try again with Vanny. Possibly consult the previously listed options, SteelWool. The problem is that there's no way that's gonna happen. This DLC looks like it's just gonna keep developing this hollow, empty shell of a storyline. Does anyone actually care what happens to Gregory? Now looking at the trailer, there really isn't any discernible lore, but I think that's actually a bad sign, because it sort of goes that the current lore will be continued unless otherwise specified, and this trailer does not otherwise specify. I'm gonna try to predict the plot real quick, and I guess in a week or two we'll see how correct I am. Gregory is somehow going to get stuck in the Pizzaplex. He's going to be hunted by the animatronics again. He has to escape again, and with the help of this new Cassie character who we'll play as, who will probably have some strange, far-fetched connection to the Aftons, we will help Gregory escape and bury the hatchet once and for all somehow, probably a fire. We will set the remains of the Pizzaplex alight and dramatically escape as it burns to the ground. Does that sound familiar? Okay, I'm glad that rain is over. I can't wait to stop doing this as soon as possible. Of course, when the DLC comes out, I'll play it, as long as it's under 30 gigabytes, but I don't know how realistic that is. Of course, if you want to debate any of the points that I made in the comment section, be my guest. You know, I like to hear how other people perceive it. I know the DLC has sort of been hyped up, and a lot of people will probably disagree with this video, and their opinions are fair. Maybe I'm just too jaded to look at any new FNAF project objectively enough to feel anything positive about them. Of course, I'm excited about the FNAF movie. I'll probably make a video on that pretty soon, but until then, I'll be taking a nap. This video took forever. See you guys later. In the beginning intro of the video, I said that it was going to end at like the 14-minute mark, and we're not at the 14-minute mark yet, so I'm just gonna, you know, artificially inflate the runtime. I should, you know, be able to stop talking pretty soon. Just gonna, kind of awkward, isn't it? But okay, I can probably leave now. See you guys later.